IDIC. Tonight, we will be watching Data's Day from Star Trek: The Next Generation and discussing the topic, Blessed Be the Divergent Minds. Please enjoy this meeting. So what are everybody's thoughts on the topic I've chosen and on Data's Day? Is that how you pronounce it? I have no idea.
Yeah, it's Data. Well, my first thought is, I've for a long time thought, oh, I don't think I'm neurodivergent. I have friends who are, but then super recently, my best friend and I were talking about this, and she said that, hang on, I have to think to get to the right term. People with ADHD are considered to be on the spectrum of neurodiversity. And I was like, oh, really? Because I think I've never been tested, but I think I probably have ADHD. So that was kind of a revelation.
Well, I mean, so many people who think they don't have it when they're young and who persecute people who have it, like they suddenly realize, oh, I might have this when they're older. Like people who used to tease me when I'm young, I'm suddenly seeing on like Facebook, oh, guess what I was diagnosed with?
I have autism. I found out about it. Look
And
at
I'm
me,
thinking,
everybody.
and I'm thinking, oh, the irony. This is what you used to mock me for when when we were all younger.
Yep.
But I wasn't diagnosed either. I just knew there was something off about me. I knew it because of how I was treated, how the experiences I had, and the stresses that my family went through. I said in the essay, I don't know if y'all read it. Did you?
I think I did.
I haven't had a chance to yet. Your original essay though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
My own father decided I wasn't worthy of love because I had a disability. He went so far as to say I wasn't biologically his. DNA tests have so far proven otherwise, but he went so far as to commiserate with his family that I wasn't biologically his, probably because of my disability. Yeah.
Well, I am very sorry that's the case.
Yeah, it is what it is. There's nothing. And he told my brother this, and it's very unfortunate because children are all gifts, no matter how they're constructed. And as one who's has got a condition where I don't know if I can have them, children are all gifts, and I'd be very happy to have a neurodivergent child, even though it would be a struggle to raise them. It wouldn't be a regret to have one. It would be a struggle to raise them, but so what?
Yeah.
It's a struggle to raise any kid.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I suppose I could say from my past connections, I know like some people, depending on their end of the spectrum, can either be less difficult to deal with or more difficult to deal with. I don't know. I don't want to like make light of Heather's struggles, but it's a crapshoot sometimes. You know, nothing personal. It's just how having the fortitude to move ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, try to nurture that child and try like, I don't want to say put them on the right track, but like orient them, they can interact with the world around them.
Well, it's like some parents can't handle any type of child, whether it be neurodivergent or neurotypical.
Uh-huh.
And so they either abandon them or put them in orphanages or foster care them or whatever. I mean,
Wait,
doctors encourage this behavior depending on the parentage or depending on how the child's constructed. And it's rather sad. My own mother was encouraged to put me in a group home at 3 years old.
Mm.
To put you in what? Say that again, please.
In a group home.
Oh, wow.
And my mom was like, no. Yeah. And it's quite sad. I mean, I know not all group homes are bad, but that was the typical behavior of what you did with disabled children in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, I remember my mother.
No, I think in the 60s and 70s, I had two words for that, electroshock therapy.
Well, actually, my mom grew up in like 60s, 70s, 80s America because she was born in Spokane. And she told me about how they would have like campus type living situations for disabled people, and like people living in buildings, and there were different areas depending on the severity of disability.
Connie, you okay?
Hello?
Yeah, I just I have a type of acid reflux that makes me cough like that
Oh, that's
randomly.
oh,
I
I'm
thought I had
sorry.
muted. I meant to, and I thought I had.
I hope
So
you're
sorry about that.
okay.
Yeah, it's chronic, but I'm fine.
I hope you're okay.
I'm fine. No worries.
Okay, there goes the mute button.
Well, no, I understand how she feels. I lost my gallbladder at 18, 19 years old, and that's why I can't eat certain foods now. Otherwise, I get it too. So,
So I guess Chinese is out for you then?
oh no, oranges and some acidic foods. Anyway, what are your guys' thoughts on like neurodiversity and everything? I made quite a discussion post. I don't want to be doing all the talking, so.
No, sounds all right to me. Yeah, sounds all right to me because, well, if put it this way, if we all act the same way, we're going to be predictable. Yeah, it's interesting to have somebody that thinks outside of the box and come up with interesting thoughts. Hey, I know this person on the spectrum who has done artwork for children's books, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That is cool.
I don't, it's like, oh, sorry, I'm trying to find the right words. But
What did I tell you about apologizing, Anthony?
I am not apologizing this time. I said, I did not say I was sorry or I apologize or anything on that line. And she's getting a kick out of this, you see, Connie? We may be miles apart or kilometers apart, as the case may be, but still, this happens.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I picked Data's Day this time because, you know, what is it like to be in the brain of a neurodivergent? And basically we see that in Data's Day, right? Like he's writing this letter and penning his thoughts, and we get to see him interact in situations with typical people and typical situations. How does a neurodivergent navigate typical situations? But that's my thoughts.
Yeah, any preliminary thoughts besides Heather?
Thank you. I was trying to get to that because I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I already spoke my piece.
Boy, you're lippy tonight.
I don't have a ton of thoughts just because I don't know as much about it as probably you guys do. Like I said, I'm a potentially undiagnosed ADHD, and that would be it. Like,
well, welcome to the crazy club.
Say again.
Welcome to the crazy club. It's fun to be different, isn't it?
Well, see, okay, I'm trying to make clear where I'm coming from.
Okay.
I don't feel like I'm necessarily different mentally, except that, you know, I do have trouble concentrating. I'm very distractible. And what I don't know is whether all of that has been brought on by stress. And I don't mean the pandemic, because I had been through a whole lot of other shit before the pandemic even started. I've been through a lot of really difficult life experiences, not to be overly dramatic about it, but it's true. And so
Okay.
it's possible that the buildup, both the trauma effect and the buildup of all of those things, it's possibly what causes my difficulty concentrating, being distracted, all that stuff. Or I could have pure ADHD and not know it yet, that kind of thing. And I feel like, if the spectrum is like this, then ADHD is like barely onto the spectrum. That's my speculation. I don't know if I'm right about that, but that's why I'm kind of like, well, I don't know if I'm really on this.
But what I would
thing.
advise, and this is someone who's gone through a whole gamut of getting diagnosed, I would advise you to speak to your doctor and get an assessment, because they use a DSM manual, like a diagnostic.
I know what you're talking about.
The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, version 5.
And assessments are very helpful. There are gamut assessments or gamut of tests, probably taken over a period of time, that can help.
Well, right now I'm focusing on my health. The acid reflux, of which you heard evidence,
Yes,
it is annoying and chronic. But I'm working right now with, well, soon I'm going to start working with a naturopath. I had already started working with a health coach, a certified health coach, to see if it's something I could end up reversing. And the coach wasn't herself able to get me past it. The things we tried together were important and foundational and helped a little, but they didn't really address the issue. So she suggested that I talk to a naturopath, and I'm going to start, meeting with that person soon. I already talked to that one, and she basically was like, from the things you're telling me, we had a short consultation phone call. She was like, the things you're telling me indicate that like your gut hasn't been working correctly for a long time, like many years, and it may take a couple of years of applying things I'm going to suggest for you to finally come out of it. All of that to say that that's where my focus is right now, is my physical health. And it's hard to have a lot of bandwidth to work on other things at the same time.
and that's okay.
So
That's perfectly okay. As long as you're working on something, I mean, it's progress, right?
Yeah. And speaking as somebody who has had GI issues, I kind of empathize with you on that. Yeah.
yeah, it's not
Well,
fun.
my case is not acid reflux. It's like everything comes after the stomach. I won't elaborate. Anything.
Oh, you poor things. Oh,
Yeah,
my
enough said.
goodness. You poor things. I should make you a chicken and rice thingy. It's very good for the
You heard her.
stomach.
She's gonna turn me into food.
Well, chicken and rice is very good for ailing stomachs.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that.
It is. It helps bad stomachs.
Huh. Cool.
Yeah. But if nobody's got any other thoughts about Data's Day or the essay or anything, maybe we should just get to watching it and give everybody time to collect thoughts and read the essay or skim and then discuss.
All righty, me mute myself, and I'll see you all in.
A quick thought, a quick interesting tidbit. The 1 year anniversary of the publishing of the essay was on Tuesday.
Cool. Did you, if you don't mind my asking, did you get paid for that work?
I did.
Very cool. I do communications for my job.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't write a lot in my off time because it's a little bit too much like my job sometimes.
Yeah.
But what I did see, I saw a recent call for articles from the Star Trek people, and I was like, maybe I'll do one of those someday.
I did try to submit more. I haven't heard anything, but I did send other things into free fanzines. There are other ones. If you're interested, you should message me. I'll direct you.
Cool.
But yeah, I've been doing like freelancing journalism type things since I was 17 years old, except one piece I had published when I was only 6.
Oh, very cool. That's
I've
awesome.
got education in communication arts, but I lost my job, my latest job, because of the pandemic. So I've been looking, but I haven't found anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a dual citizen, so I'm hoping that means more opportunity, but I haven't found anything yet.
Gotcha.
All right.
Anyway, if anybody has any questions, just please put them in the chat.
Okay.
And we shall reconvene after.
Sounds good. See you then.
Yep, see you. Well, I'm finished.
Me too. You're muted, Anthony.
Isn't it
Okay,
interesting?
sorry about that. I had a bit of a phone call first. That's my. I knew you still watched the movie, but
Isn't it interesting that, you know, humanity isn't something we're born with, it's something we grow into, as Data said at the end.
yeah, I remember that how somebody who could somebody, I remember how he took what they said literally, which I figure is a tenet of neurodivergency, to put it nicely.
It is, and
literally.
some people are put off by that, unfortunately.
Oh, I know this
Yeah.
one so well because I am hyper literal, and you know, just as you said, Heather, it has not always proved popular with certain people in my life. Like a guy I was dating once. I don't even remember the exact situation that prompted this comment, but he said to me once, "You're so literal." And I'm just like, I was like, well, I can only go off of what you say, first of all. And there's the other thing is, I was raised in a very strict religious household. And, you know, it was a place where they took the Bible too literally too often. And so, you know, the Bible being true, and let your yea be yea, let your nay be nay. And
Okay.
you know, we didn't dare, you know, say anything but the absolute truth to our parents, you know, all that stuff together, plus elements of my personality, possibly.
If we're
Combined to make me-
supposed to tell the truth to our parents based on the Bible, then I'm probably going to hell, because of how my father was, I lied to him more than once for my own safety and protection, and for the safety and protection of my mother and brother. So I'm probably going to hell, and I'm really.
Well, I think
so
God
let
would
me
understand you in that case.
let me finish. I only said all of that to give you a picture of what it was like in our household.
Oh, and there's me taking it literal. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So that I'm, you know, all of that is just to convey that's the kind of environment I grew up in. And so that's what formed my brain. And so then that, and like I said, possibly elements of my personality combined to make me hyper literal compared to a lot of people. And, you know, being in such a sheltered and strict and religious environment did not prepare me well for a world in which people often don't say exactly what they mean. They often use, you know, sarcasm or irony, like Commander Riker did there for a second. And so I could really relate to that moment of Data taking things literally and people looking at him like, what the hell are you talking about?
Sarcasm is the worst.
Yeah, it did take a little bit of training to understand that sometimes people are serious, and sometimes it's like Riker sarcasm, or they're just trying to make a joke. It's like kind of like somebody come up to you, Heather, why did the chicken cross the road? What's the first thing that goes through your head when I ask you, why did the chicken cross the road?
I honestly don't know. Like, I know it's a joke, but sometimes I personally have to ask people, are you being sarcastic or are you being serious? Because I don't understand sarcasm.
So let me ask this of Connie for a second. Connie,
Mhm.
why did the chicken cross the road?
To get to the other side.
And what's the first thing popped up in your mind that I told you that?
That is the first thing that comes to my mind, to get to the other side.
But I'm using Heather just to illustrate my point, right? Like some people, especially those on the spectrum, can't like fathom jokes too well. So I bet she's thinking, what's the chicken trying to cross the street for? What does the chicken have to do?
Okay.
Did the chicken just get like Amazon Prime?
Okay.
All right, enough of that. Enough of that.
All right.
Point
Yeah. All
made.
right. Let's go to the episode. What did everybody think? I didn't, this actually, as I was looking at it and studying it and watching it, this is actually, this goes back to the whole thing where Maddox, this goes back to Measure of a Man. This was Data trying to give Maddox more information so that he could eventually participate in Maddox's research. And so Data was trying to give Maddox more information about himself.
So this episode came after Measure of a Man.
Yeah,
I believe
season
so,
Measure
yeah.
of a Man was season
Oh.
2.
I never thought about that. Honestly, do not hate me for saying this, please. Not hate me.
Okay.
I think Measure of a Man got it wrong. I have a very unpopular Star Trek opinion.
Well, yes, because it makes me think of like disabled people constantly having to fight for their rights and fight for their right to use their own voices instead of having people speak over them and for them. And it's sad.
Well, what I'm talking about is the conclusion of the trial in Measure of a Man, I think was wrong, because Data is he's essentially a robot. Created, he's a created machine. He's not a human being. He's not a living, breathing entity or sentient being. And so that's just my opinion. And a lot of people don't like it because Data was such a loved character. I mean, I'm kind of a non-traditional Star Trek fan in that my favorite character on TNG is probably Counselor Troy. And it's honestly the human interactions, the drama, the adventure, the the equity and diversity aspects of Star Trek that are my favorite. And a lot of people like the diversity of Star Trek, obviously, but I'm not even though I work in technical communication, I'm not a tech head by nature.
Right.
I'm very much more people oriented and like creativity and right brain and that kind of thing in my true self.
That's actually a quality of neurodivergence. They're more right brain than left brain.
Interesting. I would have thought the other way.
No, because it's easier for them to be creative than like technically aligned.
It's easier for them to be creative than technically aligned?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
That's what I understand anyway. And it's like sort of, it's easier for them to be creative than into maths and like sciences and things like that.
Yeah, I'm really surprised to hear you say that.
Like
Because
personally,
like
for me,
isn't the stereotype of I mean, maybe it's a stereotype, but the common perception is that neurodivergent people are
neurodivergent is anything but common, technically.
no, I mean the common thought about them. I would have thought would be that people think they are techie and nerdy,
Mhm.
Well, some are. I mean, that's why there's such a big spectrum.
Okay.
Like, I mean, take a look at Julian Bashir. Like, I talk about him in the essay. Like, Julian Bashir is my favorite Star Trek, one of my favorite Star Trek characters. And he's a freaking genius when it comes to intellectualism and medicine and stuff, but he's a huge social misfit. And if it wasn't for Garrick, he wouldn't probably have any true friends at all, because Garrick tells it like it is, and he is a big pain in the butt. But Garrick is a true friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let me ask you something, right? You ever find that minutiae of your neighbors interesting? Yeah, like how Data is just telling people, okay, there were 3 promotions, 2 birthday parties, somebody gave birth.
Well, that's basically a neurodivergent interpreting the world as they see it.
So without getting too into things, how was your hour before you started the day session?
How was my hour? Well, I got home from getting books at the library, and before that I had a medical appointment, which I had a shot for my endometriosis. And then I had a dinner of chicken, rice, and a little bit of bacon I cooked. You know, sometimes I do go over the day in my head. It's something neurodivergents do.
Yeah, and it's pretty much a given that Data is somebody that neurodivergence probably identify with to a certain degree.
Yeah, and he's like so intelligent, like in terms of the ability to do his job, but he's so very alone socially. He cannot master emotions. He cannot master connecting with people. Oh goodness, he tries, but he cannot
And
master the human element, and that's something that neurodivergents struggle with.
yeah, and how would you feel if me jumping ahead a few movies or a few seasons, how do you feel somebody try to give you an emotion chip? Would you take it?
Well, he did, obviously. So he did, and you know, he in the end he didn't need it because he had mastered them enough to be able to make that choice to choose humanity, because he didn't take that emotion chip with him when he died, right? The Nemesis, he didn't take that with him because Geordi found it in his quarters.
Ah, I've watched Nemesis, but it's been a long time. It's not my favorite Star Trek movie.
Well,
I think I've seen it twice, but in any case, it's been a long time. So I didn't remember that part, is what I'm saying.
yeah, I think there's a scene, a deleted scene where Data's
Oh, it's
being cleaned up.
deleted.
It might be. I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched that.
The emotion chip scene that I remember is in First Contact when they're about ready to, you know, engage the Borg with their phaser rifles. The captain suggests he turns the emotion chip off, and he's just like, "Er," and Picard's like, "There are times when I envy you."
Yeah, but he got it. He took a break with the chip, I think, and after the mess with Lore, and then he got it put back in Generations, I believe,
Okay.
because he had shoved Dr. Crusher off the imaginary ship, and Geordi was like, "Oh, that was not funny."
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Parts
that
in
was
Generation?
Generations.
And so Data was like, "Geordi, can you help me put this thing in?" And they had a conversation about it.
It's been longer even since I've seen Generations.
Well, we're gonna have to put it in the schedule.
What I remember about Generations is the captain's meeting and the Enterprise crashing. Those are the things I remember from that movie.
But you know, Data's emotion chip was sort of a cripple in Generations, because would allow Soon to kidnap Geordi.
Mm.
I'm sort of a Trek geek. Sorry about that.
Do you think I'm going to make fun of that, seeing as we're in a club about Star Trek?
Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna stop geeking and focus.
No, you're fine. You
Yeah,
clearly
sounds
know
right to
Star Trek
me.
better than I, which is fine. I'm not gonna.
I could ramble all day if I don't restrain myself. Anyway, so we begin. Well, basically, Data gets relieved from his shift early, and Riker's like, "Oh, go be the father of the bride."
So you're pointing that out makes me wonder. Oh, right, because he was walking down. His role in the wedding was to walk Keiko down the aisle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. How would you feel about going to a wedding? Actually, matter of fact, I have one scheduled 2 months from now. Granted, I'm not in neither the bridal staff nor the groom staff, but just deal with that social context.
Yeah, the social context, even attending a wedding for someone who is neurodivergent is tough. Like, you don't know how to behave, like especially a fancy one, because there's so many different sensory things going on. Like, people spend a lot of money and you go into it's like a huge party with different sensory levels. You don't know how to behave. Like, even if the bride and groom are your friends, you don't know how to behave, you don't know how to dress, you don't know what to do. And you just basically want to get your food, sit at a table and pretend you're invisible. It's very intimidating because you're scared of saying or doing the wrong thing and embarrassing yourself, and also making everybody else look bad. You know, it's very intimidating, that kind of a social occasion. But it was nice of Chief O'Brien and Keiko to involve Data in such a way.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they have compassion towards neurodivergent people, which is interesting because when they transferred to Deep Space Nine, it didn't seem like Chief O'Brien had such compassion towards Julian in the beginning. And it's interesting because Julian and Data are so alike.
Yeah, Julian really gets he's not well treated in the first, however long, first season for sure.
No, poor guy. Like, granted, he does behave a little inappropriately here and there, but people should really have compassion on him and say, hey, he's nervous. This is his first posting. And maybe he doesn't know how to act because he's only been at the academy before this. And maybe he should just be given, some talking to on social cues and appropriate behavior, and people should just learn to love him. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm in total agreement. I mean, if he had been outright, it's been a while since I saw the first season of DS9, so I don't remember the exact scenarios. But if Julian had ever been outright rude to someone or mistreating anyone, then obviously that requires a little bit stronger of a response. But if he's just being kind of weird, then the response should not be, teasing or anything like that. More, it should be like someone takes him aside and kindly kind of gets the point across, that wasn't cool or whatever it is, right? And then befriending him so things get less weird,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it really got any easier for him, but I don't really know. I feel bad for him and I feel bad for Data. Like, at least the people on the Enterprise came to value Data, and they literally grieved when he died. They literally cried over it. I don't know. Like should I spoil Nemesis, or are you gonna watch it?
I've seen Nemesis,
Yeah.
and I do agree that I would never want to see that horrible, god awful,
Okay,
like a
okay,
dozen
okay.
expletives.
Whoa.
You don't want to see it again. We get it.
No, but they loved Data. Literally, when Shinzon's ship blew up with Data on it, it's like there was a scene after where the crew of the Enterprise, the remaining crew, stood around with drinks in their hand and they cried and they drank to Data. And it was the most beautiful thing in the world. And have either of you seen Picard?
Yes.
Good one. Yeah, and then in the last bit of Picard, like, Data's death scene, my gosh, with the music and everything, and
Blue sky.
yes, the blue skies.
Smiling at me. I love that song. And Issa Briones'
Blue sky.
rendition. Oh my God. So beautiful. And who would have thought well, apparently Jeff Russo, the composer, the soundtrack guy, apparently he thought of it to slow that song down. Because usually that song's like blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. It's like, that's typical, but they slowed it down and gave it this lush orchestral treatment. I'm kind of a music nerd. I love it. So beautiful.
And it's like Data was so valued, and I don't know, maybe he didn't see it in himself. He didn't think he mastered human emotion or human companionship, but if only he could be a fly on the wall for how people saw him, so he could see himself that way, eh? Because literally, Nemesis, Troy was just standing there sobbing her little heart out when she watched the Shinzon ship blow up. Oh my Lord, she literally just stood there bawling. When Riker came on the bridge and Picard came on the bridge, she just looked up at her husband and whispered, "It's Data." And she just broke in her husband's arms. Oh my gosh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Don't worry. There's nothing wrong with you crying, Heather.
And then it's like, everybody, I'm sure when they heard of Data's death, but it's like Data didn't see any of that. He's like talking about how he didn't get anything, how he didn't get life, how he didn't understand people's lives or people's emotions. It's just like, why didn't you see in yourself what people saw in you? Was it the divergency that was making him not see these things? I'm not sure.
I
wouldn't, I have no way of knowing, but I wouldn't jump to that conclusion because, what was I watching? Oh, are you guys Discovery fans?
Well, I caught up with the rest of season 4 so far.
So, and Heather, have you seen the most recent episode of Discovery?
I'm getting there, but you can talk about it. It's okay.
It's not a giant plot point, so it's not a huge spoiler. So Culber is talking to Saru about, and a little bit of this played in the last episode too, his interest in Navarre President Rillick. No, Rillick is the president of the Federation. What is her name? Yes, thank you. And Saru is expressing his insecurity, and Culber says insecurity is universal. It's okay. Yeah. And so that came to my mind just now when you were saying, was it neurodiversity that made Data doubt himself? Everybody experiences that, I think.
Well, Saru strikes me as someone who's never really thought of himself as good enough for anything. And it's like, he was, I think, and I have seen early seasons of Discovery, he was very much affected by Jojo's death. And I don't know if he ever fully got over it.
He was affected by whose death? Say that again.
Giorgio's death, I'm like,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
very much
Giorgio,
affected by that
previous
loss.
captain.
He was very much affected by Giorgio's death, and he was very attached to her.
Mm.
And I don't know if he and Michael ever really fully resolved that. I'm sure a little piece of him still blames her for that, but he doesn't talk about it because it wouldn't be couth or polite, and they're really in a situation where they really can't do anything about it.
Well,
It's not cool to really
Uh.
talk about it anymore.
well, I don't agree with that because only because I feel like Discovery does a great job of generally of portraying characters who have feelings and who talk about their feelings and who try to work through their feelings. Like, and of course, Next Generation had also where people go to the counselor on the ship, and
Mhm.
Discovery has that too. So there's that, and like that one dinner party that Saru had to try to cheer everybody up that went horribly
Mhm.
wrong. You know, so I don't think it would have been outside the character, the general character of Discovery as a show, for there to be a scene where, at least one scene where Michael and Saru talk about Giorgio and her death and their grief.
I don't know, like Saru, I'm not sure, but Saru just seems like the type where he doesn't talk about everything. There are some things he won't talk about with certain people, maybe, and maybe he will talk about it with Serena. We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong probably about Saru as just who he is. I mean, can you blame him for being a guarded person after having grown up believing that, you know, at some point he was going to be called along with everybody else in his world, and that was just how they structured their lives, believing that that was the way of the world, and not knowing that ultimately that he was more powerful than that.
Yeah. But I do hope good things for Saru and Serena, and this is what I hoped for. I hope that they would have feelings for each other.
Mm-hmm. They are so cute.
They are cute, especially when he gave her the plant.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I hope they get together, and I hope, especially since Vulcans have evolved and emotions are more allowed now.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
this is something I encourage.
Yeah, you know, you just reminded me of something else that plays into a really, for me, interesting thought about Star Trek and its fandom. What I mean is, I'm a pretty big devotee of Brene Brown. Do either of you know who that is?
Why don't you tell us?
Only Renee I can think of is Odo.
No, Brene. This is a woman named Brene Brown, a real person. So Brene Brown is a social work researcher, and so she researches human connection, both the things that facilitate it, like vulnerability. When we see other people's vulnerability, we get to know them better, and we love seeing that in other people when they're willing to be vulnerable. But of course, it's hard for ourselves to be vulnerable. So that's the rub. And she studies things that get in the way of it, like shame. And so she writes these New York Times bestselling books about these things that she has learned through her research. And one of the things that I've heard her say a few times recently is that human beings are not logical creatures who sometimes have some emotions. We are emotional creatures who sometimes do things rationally. And the reason I'm bringing this up related to Star Trek is it's really interesting to me how within the fandom, as I see it, Spock is such a huge favorite character. Data is such a huge favorite character, and there's nothing wrong with that. Please do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that, I'm not casting aspersions on any one person, and I'm not judging it, okay? It's not about that. It's just interesting that the most logical characters are the ones that humans are so, so many humans favor it so much. And it just makes me wonder, is like, are some of those people trying to, do they love those characters because they are less emotional, less expressive of their emotions? Or is it, just out of wanting to find a balance? I just am curious about that.
I do
It's
Out of
really,
curiosity, I would reckon. Like, why is this person functioning in this way? Everybody else has their emotional thingies.
I
So
do
why
have
are these two so different?
an answer. Perhaps they're using logic as a method to hide their vulnerability, because Spock and
ding
Data
ding.
are both divergents, and I have said this. And they both come from very diverse backgrounds, and they both have things that make them a bit of an outcast, and they both are unique, and they both have special things they can add to the world, yet they both lack the ability to connect fully with humanity. So they
Yeah.
have to rely on intellectualism, but they come off as being unable to connect with anybody at all.
Yeah, well, and what I'm interested in too is the people who are huge fans of those characters. It's like, maybe that's what those characters are doing, but are the people who are huge fans of those characters, are they also, is that why they like those characters? Like, oh, this person has figured out how to hide their vulnerability. They're just all heady and logical and techie, and maybe I can be that way too.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, that's further divorcing yourself in some measure from how we were created to be.
Well,
So just my opinion, but
it's easier sometimes to divorce yourself from humanity and reality than to face a reality that doesn't want to understand the way you are or accept it.
well, I hear that.
And I know that sounds cold and callous, but humanity is sometimes cold and callous and doesn't want to understand what they can't easily understand.
Well, like I said, I totally hear that. I get it. Because if not from my neurodivergency, whatever amount that may be, from other things I've been through, people don't want to get it. People do not want to get it.
Trauma can definitely make having a neurodivergency harder. And it's because of trauma that some people may have a neurodivergency they don't want to approach, because simply they don't have the spoons.
Mm-hmm. So I'll stop talking now because I feel like Anthony wanted to say something, and I.
Sorry, Anthony.
No, not really. Pretty much.
Go ahead, Anthony.
No, well, Connie's pretty much right on most of this. So the only thing I can really add is, well, the way I've seen it, right? Well, Spock is a person, right? He is like, yeah, well, he has his feelings, right? He's trying to look good in front of everybody. I'm better than you, right? I got the pointy ears, you don't.
Well,
Data, right? That's somebody who, yeah, I can see the similarities. Yeah, how he fits, it depends. Well, I guess that's how people understand you. No, that somebody is never gonna get you, and they kind of feel like threatened by the fact that your mind is a little askew compared to the way their minds function. But there's people who understand, okay, this is how Data is, how he functions. As long as he's not hurting anybody, he's fine by me. You know what I mean?
but you also have to understand Spock was taught that Vulcans are somewhat superior so long as they hide their emotions and uniqueness and only focus on.
That's why I'm saying that Data and Spock are two different things. Yeah, I don't know if my point was clear, but I hope that explains it.
Yeah. And unfortunately for Data, there came a point that androids and synths were eventually seen as dangerous because of the Mars attack.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be careful that we're always, if we're neurodivergent, we always have to be aware of the fact that we need to be promoting the good about neurodivergence so the typicals don't someday try to make us seem dangerous and try to get us outlawed or outcasted or anything like that, because the typicals always try to persecute and cause harm to that which they don't easily understand. Am I right?
Well, witness this week, the Texas governor calling for investigating people, families, school teachers thereof, of kids who are trans, which I realize is not neurodivergence. I'm making an analogy.
It's still an important issue. It's a sad issue
Absolutely.
because kids are beautiful. Kids are so much smarter than they used to be, and kids know what they wish to do with their bodies, and they deserve to have that right.
Yep.
Choice, and it's not child abuse, and it's absolute BS that Texas is allowing this travesty, this indifference. Anyway, I'm ranting. I'll give you the floor.
Okay, but I think, so
You're
let me
fine.
ask you, have we answered your main question for tonight?
We're just going on tangents. Any discussion will just popple around it. We're just having a lovely discussion here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Connie,
Yes.
go ahead.
Oh, I don't have anything else at the moment.
Sorry, I just got on a tangent because, I've been upset about this because children are beautiful and they're being made to feel as if they're not beautiful and whatever skin they want to be in. And it's like, oh my Lord, why can't the world see children as gifts? I'm sad about it.
So I have heard it speculated that that whole thing is a tactic to divert attention from the fact that, let's see if I can get this right. The governor told the Texas grid operator to keep prices high during the freeze that caused power outages. So that's why you had bills that were so enormous. And now I'm obligated to tell you that I'm an employee of a power company, American Electric Power. I do not speak for the company. All opinions are my own.
So
I have to say
want
that.
to attack children?
I have to say that stuff whenever I comment about things involving my industry. But my point is, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he just did that. Well, I mean, he probably hates trans kids in any case, but he probably, or he might have. It wouldn't surprise me if he did.
That's very sad.
Come out with this now in a way to distract from that grid operator thing. And people, people getting up in arms about what he did there. So now he can divert it to something else. But I don't know that for a fact. So
sad. Anything that's difficult to understand, it's sad. Anything that's difficult to understand, that people are like, oh, let's not dare understand it at all. Let's try to get rid of it. It's BS.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, Teresa, how are you?
I got a lot going on, but hanging in there.
It's good to see you.
Yeah.
We're discussing the aftermath of Data's Day, and IDIC includes me, and that's why Star Trek matters. And blessed be the divergent minds and divergency and neurodivergency, and how to love different individuals and everything around it.
Yeah, that seems to be a difficult thing for most people to grasp, especially like right now in the atmosphere we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, you'd think we'd be getting better,
No.
I saw a
Well, I
post
know.
recently that it pointed out the dates and the frequency of the world wars and other big wars, and same with pandemics. And it's too much history repeating itself on both fronts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it tends to do that.
I mean, in the pandemic, you would think that people would want to come closer together and appreciate what we have in common. It's like we shouldn't be focusing on indifference. We should be focusing on inclusion, but we're not focusing on inclusion.
What you'd think after a year where we had so much isolation that we would be thrilled to be around other human beings again. But it doesn't seem like that's the case, you know? It's just
No, it
unfortunate.
doesn't. It's quite sad. I mean, we need to understand each other better. We need to find joy in each other. But, you know, like Data, we feel like we're still, a lot of us feel like we're outsiders in human society. And I mean, in this little article I wrote, if I can get it to load, I mean, I said in this article, I've always felt like an alien in a world of humans because I see the world and situations differently than others.
Mhm.
And that is a lonely path to tread. And it's sad, it shouldn't be that way. I mean, everybody's screaming inclusion, inclusion, inclusion. And yet we're not there, we're far from there.
We are, but I think groups like this, people like you,
Hmm.
I think we're making strides. I mean, you know, my son, I know, my oldest son has Asperger's, and he has a very good friend that also has Asperger's, and they just kind of bonded, and in a huge synagogue with 200 people in it, you know, they were always the two of them sitting on a bench, just the two of them. But for the people who took the time to come and talk to those two, they always came up to me afterwards and said, wow, I just want to tell you that your son just has a brilliant mind. And he does. He's very socially awkward,
Mhm.
and he doesn't fit society's norms. He does not think the way that, you know, I guess the average person thinks. But for those who actually take a minute and talk with him, he's just the different way that he thinks and the different way that other people think. You know, if we just took a minute and listened to them, we might learn something.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we might learn something about ourselves too. And I think that that's it can be hard, but I think that we should take that extra minute and do that, because you could be really surprised. I mean, this kid, when he sits down and the ideas that he comes up with, they can blow your mind. So, you know,
Yeah.
I wish more people would take the time to do that. Just take that time and really talk to somebody. Listen. That's the big thing, is listening. That's the thing we don't like to do. That's hard for me to
Well,
take time to talk.
it's called people have a different social pace than everybody else, and not everybody really wants to go at a slower social pace because they feel it takes a lot of time that they don't want to make. Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah, has anybody ever heard of a term called a social pace?
No, that's interesting. Say more about that.
Yeah, I actually wrote about the social pace in the essay. I think
Yeah.
nobody but Anthony has read it. And it's like, if people don't take the time to adjust their social pace at the rate they socialize, or they're willing to socialize or learn about themselves or each other, then they're going to miss a lot of things. But, you know, everybody has a different social pace, or the level they're willing to learn at, or who they're willing to learn about. I'm stammering, by the way, sorry. But, people with slower social paces, like kind of Julian or Data or other people with difficulties, they blame and shame themselves for situations in which they get into social trouble with people who have faster social paces. Like whenever I get into trouble with people that have faster social paces, I blame and shame myself, even though people
Yeah,
should be willing to adapt to me as well, because I try my best to adapt to people, but I can't always do it because the expectations aren't clear, or other people's social paces are fast, or people promise to adapt to me, but they're not always able or willing to do it. And I often find myself misunderstood and shunned over my lack of social intelligence. I'm capable of learning how to be better, but it's not a quick process. It is really not a quick process. And people don't show compassion over my pace because, I'm a little bit of Julian, I'm a little bit of Reginald Barclay, Spock, Worf, Tilly, Data, all those people. It's like, I really struggle sometimes, and other times I'm fine. And it's like, people don't have patience over my pace. It's getting better, but it's never going to be perfect and never going to
No.
be good enough for some. Yeah.
I think too, it might, so what I want to say is forming in my head, so bear with me. I wonder too whether it would be helpful if there was more education out in the world, both in the formal schools and just in general in life, about different social paces, about different types of neurodiversity. For example, two examples. Because if I start interacting with someone and I have no clue about them, it's brand new, they're brand new to me, I might not clue in. This person operates on a different pace than me. That might not be what I realize. I might just be stumbling to try to connect with them, and it may or may not be, working terribly well. But if I could pick up on it, if I knew, oh, here's the deal, and here's how it might best work to go forward, I'm certainly willing to try that. I know, as to your point, not everyone is, and I get that, and that's tragic and makes me sad. But I also know that there's a lot of variations out there, if you will, that I don't know a lot about yet.
And I
So
don't even know myself. I have to learn what my through bad
yeah.
experiences.
Uh-huh.
So
Well, I think a lot of times people are willing to come up and say, do the first pays and try to get to know somebody, but when they realize that something's not quite the same, a lot of people just, they don't know how to handle that, so they just back off, or they just maybe think, oh well, she's just weird or whatever. So I think she's right, like if people had more education, my very first encounter with autism actually was I went to church with my mother-in-law, and there was a family with two autistic kids, and I mean very low functioning at that, and that was my very first encounter. And so for a long time, that was my go-to, because even though I have two cousins with autism, they were military brats, so I really didn't have a whole lot of actual contact with them while they were young, so I really didn't have a good judge of what that really was. So it taught me a lot. And since then, I've had a lot more encounters with people all over the spectrum, with people with all different types of, you know, disabilities, mental health issues, all kinds of things. And it's really, to me, I think that taught me how to interact better, how to pick up on cues a little bit,
Mhm.
for, you know, people who are different than me. But I'd say, you know, the majority of people haven't had those encounters. They don't know. So, you know, they hear or see somebody with social issues or social, you know, not really having the same level of social, and they just don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle it.
And
So it's easier to ignore than to put yourself out there and you know, become involved in something that you don't know. People like the known. So to enter the world of the unknown, yeah, you know, a lot of people say, ooh, you know, I love to go and explore the unknown. But when it comes to the unknown right here in our communities,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, not so much.
or they say, oh, I'm going to explore the unknown and adapt to your needs, and then they totally fail at it, and they're like, oh, never mind, you get out.
Well, I'm sure I have failed plenty of times, but I do keep trying because,
Yeah.
you know, to me, I feel like it's better to be out there and try.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to be alone. I know what it's like to be lonely, because those are two different things. And I have to say one thing about both of my sons is they have always sought out people who are clearly the outcast, clearly, you know, not involved in the group. And makes my mama's heart proud, because they do take the extra effort to find those people who are sitting on the outskirts, who are there in person but not really there, and trying to bring them in. And I think a lot of us could learn from them in that regard, because we should be doing that. We should all be doing that.
That's true. I mean, people with neurodivergencies are not lost causes. We're treated like lost causes, but we are gifts to the world. We are here to
Absolutely.
teach people patience, love, and compassion, and all the other positive emotions that people need to become better if they want to become better. And I said this last week. So it's like, if people don't want to become better, that's certainly not our fault. That's on them if they don't want to become better. You know, it's like, I don't know, maybe typical people view us as distractions from their comfort zones, because if we exist, then they have to be uncomfortable. Like, if people acknowledge our existence, then typical people have to be uncomfortable, right?
Mm.
I'd say the majority probably are uncomfortable, because any difference tends to make people uncomfortable. But then, you know, like I talked about my cousin Stephanie last week. She has a very small group of friends that have really learned about, you know, the things that she's got going on, and are really there for her. But I can walk into any Messianic synagogue across the entire United States, and I would be widely accepted. And if I were to maintain that, I would build some friendships fairly quickly. But if Stephanie did the same thing, this, most people, would greet her the first time and be friendly, but then they would start to realize she's a little different, and then they just start pulling away.
It's
And I mean, that happens at our family reunion too, so
it's sad, I mean, people who claim to believe in God or higher powers that are
Hypocrisy.
yeah, people that claim to believe in God or other higher powers that are about unconditional love about anything but unconditional love. And I mean, if you're going to say you believe in a higher power that's about unconditional love, you need to show it, right?
well, yeah.
I mean, God forbid we become uncomfortable and decide to be more loving towards our fellow men, right?
I years ago in one of my devotional books, there was a story about a man that came into a church on a Sunday morning and sat by himself in the back. But he was wearing dirty clothes, and he looked and smelled different. Nobody greeted him. No one sat near him. No one came anywhere around. And really treated him like he was a leper,
Mm-hmm.
Music, the greetings, all of that is finished, and it comes time for the sermon. And this man stands up and walks to the pulpit. Turns out he was their new pastor.
Ouch.
And he had been running a test to see how they treated people who were different, who were poor, who needed somebody to reach out a hand to them. And no one did. That stung a little bit. That was years ago, but that has stuck with me for so long. So that's one of the reasons why I raised my boys to be that person, to walk over and be like, hey, I'm Alex. Hey, I'm Jonathan.
Okay.
And but it makes me feel really bad, because I know from experience people have come in that were different. We had a girl, I'm not gonna say how many years ago, but when I was in the youth group, she definitely had something mental going on.
Right.
But she was a lonely kid. Her mom was raising her by herself, and way back then, single parents were not like single parents today. I mean, today, there's so many of them. But back then, that was, that in itself was enough to cause people to look at her cross-eyed, like she did something, like she's the kid. She didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And I just remember her crying, because when she came in, people talked to her. People treated her like an equal. And that was the first time in her life that had happened. And it's sad, because she must have been, I don't know, 13, 14 when I met her. And no one had ever treated her like a human being. I mean,
Yeah.
how sad is that?
Yeah. Your story about the pastor and the girl, we were talking before you came, Connie, and Anthony and I were talking about, you know, Julian and his awkwardness and how people really didn't see him as more of a doctor and a friend until Garrick.
Right, Garrett.
Yeah, it takes that one person to kind of get you out of your shell.
It scared the crap out of Julian, I'm sure, but Garrett came up
Oh,
to
yeah.
the food and sat down, and I believe it was the 3rd episode of Deep Space Nine. And I mean,
Remember when he went back to Commander Cisco and he's like, "We have a problem. I don't know what to do." Funny.
he didn't know it was like, I don't know if it was I don't know if it was seduction or what, but Garrick was Julian's first real friend.
Okay. I know Garrick is Garrick, but still. So if I came out like, assuming distance is irrelevant, just to get that out of the way, Teresa, would you care
Sir,
to have a cup of tea tomorrow?
a cup of tea? I love tea.
What do you make of that, Heather?
I think that's lovely. Have some scones with it. You need
Ooh.
food with tea.
I have a recipe for lemon curd croissants.
Oh,
Love it. It's fantastic. It melts in your mouth. Absolutely wonderful. And then you need the lemon tea. Ah, very nice. Very nice.
and I know it sounds odd, but I firmly believe that Garrick was Julian's first friend, because I really don't think Dax and Julian had time to go for a drink, because the Deep Space Nine crew was too busy buggering around with the Cardassians for them to do any drinking.
I think Dax would have said they were friends, but they really got a lot closer later. You
I
know,
don't-
like
I
I
don't
think
think they did
season
anything.
3 and after maybe. And then, you know, him and Miles, because when in the beginning, Miles was just annoyed by Julian completely. Like he just was totally annoyed by him. And then you look all the way back to the finale and I bawled. You know, when they do the video and they do the flashbacks and there's dark
Yeah.
scenes and
The
I just
goodbye
I cried like a
montage.
baby. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm still mad about that video.
But did they
Because
ever stay in touch after that?
Harry should have been in there. That's not right. They should have had Jadzia in some of those flashbacks in that video. At least the wedding. At least the wedding.
Well, I
But
heard that he didn't give her permission for it,
you know why?
because an unauthorized image of her was used somewhere else.
The thing that I heard was that they would have had to pay her royalties
Yeah.
for that. Like, how much could that have been for like the image of her and Worf getting married? Like, seriously.
As if
how
they're
much
not
would that
paying
be?
her royalties. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh,
As
you
if she's not being paid royalties every time an episode that she's in airs anyway. It's not like it's
Right?
going to be that much more for her to
That's-
have a few seconds within one episode. That's so dumb.
That's what I'm saying. They messed it all up because she should have been in there.
Corporate
there for
greed.
8
It's a
seasons.
bitch.
She couldn't have gotten 8 seconds, man. You know,
Yeah.
Star Trek
Yeah,
was very
that kind of
different
hurt me.
back then.
yeah,
Star Trek was a very different show back then.
It was. I mean, I just recently watched Trials and Tribulations again. I do have to say, when I'm feeling really depressed, that's one of the ones that I go to. So I watched that yesterday with all of this stuff going on. One of my good friends has family because her parents were born in the Ukraine. So they've got a lot of relatives in there. And so I rewatched it and man, they did some really good acting in that one. That's all I can say. It was fantastic.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at remembering most episode names, so remind me what that one was about.
That's where they went back in time. They got an orb from the Cardassians and
The
went back in time
crossover.
to K7, to the
Hmm.
original Trouble with Tribbles episode.
Oh, that, okay.
And yes, before anyone asks, those are planned. I haven't released all the schedule yet, but those are planned.
Uh-huh.
They
Enlighten
are.
us.
They're planned for the future. So, yeah.
But we got to do both episodes, Trouble with Tribbles and Trials and Tribulations. Maybe like a 2-week.
Yeah, I might.
It's gonna be a two-parter, definitely.
I think having more than one episode in a night, unless it's like a deliberate 2-part episode.
Yeah, I'm just
might be
thinking,
outside.
unless you're warning us ahead of time, it's gonna be a marathon.
Yeah, I
Hey,
try
I'm up for a
to. I
marathon.
know you guys get tired easy. I don't want to exhaust you, and because even though I'm neurodivergent, I'm very aware that you guys get tired easy because of our timing at night. So I don't want to overwhelm you.
Well, I'm a
Hey.
night owl, so you have nothing to worry about from me.
Yeah.
I
So
don't actually really like sleep, you know. I take these little naps all day and all night, but I don't really like sleep.
like, you know, I'm like Data in like I try to be considerate of human feelings. I don't miss that. I don't miss out on that ability to share human feelings or to ignore them. Poor Data, he missed so much.
Maybe we can do like a tag team kind of thing where we can start earlier for the people in other countries and stuff.
That might
Since
be
I know
like
we've got-
Fridays are interesting. Fridays are interesting. Like it depends on if people are, do you work?
Yeah. But maybe we could do like a couple of special, you know, things too.
Yeah, I mean, if you have specific episodes you want to see on specific days, those are wonderful things to write down because my neurodivergent brain can only hold so much information at a time. So writing things down is
Right. I
helpful.
remember the time I requested shore leave. Just look at Dr. McCoy get chased by the rabbit, maybe have a discussion on human imagination.
Oh yeah,
Guess
yeah.
Guess what, Anthony Perez? It's in the schedule in case you forgot to read
There you
it.
go. See what I mean?
Because he
I'm
wrote
not
it
good
down
at
for
looking at
me. He
schedules.
wrote, guess what? If you would like to write it down for me, I will be more than happy to accommodate your request because Heather can't remember it in her brain unless it's written down. Blessed be the neurodivergent brains as long as things are written down.
Hey, I don't remember things written down because I lose whatever I wrote it on.
I know,
Open
I
the
know.
door. It won't
But
go.
gently, gently, gently. I'm happy. Like, just send me a PM, explain what you want, because I'm happy to accommodate requests. Okay.
The only problem with that is where can you watch those episodes? Because they took them off Netflix and
Oh,
don't
that's something I was
have
gonna bring
Netflix.
up, as a matter of fact. I mean, cut you off, Teresa.
Oh no, go.
But those of us who are stateside, the only reason I could have watched Data's Day tonight is because they still have it on Netflix. I've recently had it just to watch the Netflix only has TNG and DS9. If I'm gonna watch Voyager, TOS, Enterprise, or any of that, I had to go get Paramount Plus.
Do you have the ability to get Paramount Plus?
Not at the moment. But I mean I remember the episode. It's just been a while. But yeah, I'm pretty mad at him because my son had just started watching Voyager, which was exciting for me because I haven't seen Voyager since it was on the air.
UPN,
And then
wow.
boom, it was gone. So we had been talking Voyager episodes, and then he kept saying, wait, I haven't seen that one. So we stopped talking about Voyager because I didn't want to ruin anything for him. So I'm hoping, we got a lot going on. One of the things is my landlord did not renew our lease. So I have like 3 weeks to be into a new place. About to have surgery. They're going to remove my kidney to test for cancer.
Oh,
And I'm still kind of achy from that accident. So
oh no. Prayers to all of you. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the timing for me just never
Yeah.
seems to be quite right. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I was in a car accident in January, which is why for a long time I didn't say anything on any of the Star Trek pages. I broke 4 ribs, 3 ribs, 4 ribs, I don't know, and my sternum. So yeah, I mean, when I go to the hospital, I had upper respiratory infection, messed up from that. My knee that was finally healing got messed up again. So yeah, when I hurt myself, I really put 100%
goodness.
into it. So yeah, so right now it's a little crazier than normal crazy.
That
So once we get settled in, I'll be laid up for a little while after my surgery. So I'll have lots and lots of time to go online and do stuff.
oh
I
goodness.
guess there's a silver lining there, I might be, I've got a fan fiction started, and maybe I can work on that. So
I suppose I'll take all the good news I can get.
hey, after I work on it just a little bit more, maybe I can send it to you guys to review, see
We
what you
love
think.
it. Is that on AO3 then?
What's that?
Oh,
Is it
that
on
was me knocking
AO3?
on wood. Sorry.
The fan fiction?
Yeah.
I'm doing like a post-Dominion War story.
Is it on Archive of Our Own?
No, I'm just kind of going off and doing my own little thing. I do mention like Garrick. So I mentioned some players in there, but yeah. Since I haven't read a lot of the DS9 books, I don't want to like get too far into anything that would conflict. So
I should
but
send you
I've
mine
had
now
some
that I
fun with
know
it.
you're in need of. Now that I know you're in need of entertainment, I should send you mine to cheer you up.
Hey, I'm working on like some reading material that I've been putting off, and I got my son. I was so excited. I found this used bookstore, and they had the original series. I think it's called The Song of the Singers. No, that's not it. That's the one about the cell people. The one with the cat people. Do you know who I'm talking about? It starts with an E. I can't say it.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about that god-awful Avatar movie.
No. Yahura had a friend who was, they're
Whereas
like,
in the animated series?
no, this is a book using the original series crew. But they go to this planet and it's cat people. They're reminiscent of like early Native Americans, but they're like the size of a human, but they're cats who talk and yeah.
Oh, like that cat officer
Live in
who was in
trees.
TAS.
That's what I said. They
Yeah,
have-
no, it's not the animated series. But I loved the book the first time. So I got it for my son because he loves cats.
Okay.
But I need to reread that one so we can talk about it because you know, this is our, bonding is food and Star Trek. I mean, that's what we have.
That's
Food and Star-
incredible.
I know.
I love this whole sharing of emotions. I mean, friendship is a beautiful human emotion, and it's one of the things that data strive to understand. And it's wonderful when divergents can understand friendship and embrace it. And we should all be more like divergents who are eager to embrace friendship, and we should all be striving to embrace it more.
I wish that I could invite all of you guys to my new house, new apartment, whatever I find, because this year for Mother's Day, we are having a somewhere, either Mother's Day or my son's birthday. We're doing a Star Trek party, and all the food is going to be Star Trek themed, and it is going to be. I
I'll make
cannot.
Spock's brain out of hamburger.
That would be so cool. But actually, we're gonna make like foods from the series, and
Are you
Oh,
happen to have Star Trek cookbook?
I don't have it, but they have it at the library, so I will be getting that, and we're gonna be going through it. We're definitely doing gak because we're gonna use udon noodles.
ooh.
Is with that with some like teriyaki sauce on it. I think that
Oh,
will
blood pie.
no the gak, the worms.
You
Well,
should.
I don't know where we're
make
gonna find blood wine. So
Oh, the blood wine. I've got that covered.
Oh,
I got
no
that covered.
Pinar?
We're gonna do the Israeli grape juice mixed in. We're gonna do one of the Welch's sparkling grape juices, so it gives it a little something.
Oh,
Right.
what's Israeli grape juice?
It just comes from Israel.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
it
think
is.
last time
It's
I did
way
a
better than
Seder, I
anything
had
else.
some.
That is amazing.
I wish you guys could come. We need a transporter. It's gonna be so
I
much
know
fun.
the feeling.
We're
Like
gonna
I
do these cookies that
Right.
are like the officers. So yeah, it's gonna be so cool.
Yeah, and just out of curiosity, without giving too much away, what region you hail from?
Oh, I'm in Oklahoma.
Oh,
Midwest.
Tornado Alley.
Tornado Alley. Right now,
Oh,
we've
joy.
had 3 days of ice. So I have not gone outside. I have not opened a door. I don't intend to. Not gonna do it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
and those
stay
of us on
right
the
here.
East Coast have to deal with it after you.
I know.
Oh,
I know.
if only we could all be on the cruise. Everybody's cruising right now, I
Oh,
think.
Star
I
Trek the
know.
Cruise. I know people try to invite me to that, but
Why didn't you go on the cruise? You would have had fun.
have you
I
seen
know. You could have had
Titanic?
fun for us. We need to live through you on the cruise because some of us can't travel like that. I
Like,
can't with my dialysis stuff. It's too much to
Oh,
do
boy.
that.
yeah.
Okay, let's make this when the Star Trek moment comes. Have you seen Star Trek 4?
Yes.
Remember when he got to get Chekhov out the hospital?
Yes.
We should smuggle you out on a gurney.
I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking the part where McCoy gave the old lady
The pill.
Oh, the kidney pill. Yes.
Yes. I love that scene. And so the scene where she's yelling
Oh,
that it's
Connor.
working is because she's in the bathroom because we don't have the ability to make urine, so that's what she's doing when it's working. And I love that scene.
That's amazing. Connie, are you gonna, is anybody gonna do a Trek Con this year? Are y'all planning on it?
Doing a what?
A Trek Con.
Convention, Star Trek, I don't know,
Oh.
either Vegas or Mission Chicago.
I'm not really the con going type.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's-
I want to take my son to one so bad, but they canceled ours. And then there's supposed to be one here in Oklahoma, but I was looking at the itinerary and it's not a Star Trek con, it's just sci-fi. And there's like no real Star Trek. It's like all this other stuff. So
Could you
So
try
we're not-
Chicago or is that too much?
that's too far because I have to do dialysis every night, and that's a lot of supplies to have to
Yeah.
travel with. So Texas, I could probably do because I could load up, and drive. But anything that's not in driving distance is within a few hours is really unattainable. At least
Yeah.
at this point. If I get a transplant, that's a different thing. But man, I really want to take him to one so bad.
I'm
I
gonna
think-
take off. I'm despite what I said earlier, I'm
Alright.
actually getting tired.
All right,
Oh,
Meg.
It
well,
was so nice to meet
I'm
you.
glad- I'm glad you came tonight. We're so
Me
happy.
too. Thank you.
Did you enjoy yourself?
I did. Glad I came.
I hope you
Thanks,
come
you
back
guys.
again.
Yeah, me too. I hope I get to. I was lucky, honestly, that I remembered at the right time. It was whatever I had been watching before, which was the Discovery season 4 latest episode, by the way. That finished, and then I looked at the clock and it said 7:55, and my brain went, I think there's one of those things tonight. And so I quick jumped on.
East Coast.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 2.
Well, I mean, I'm not on the coast, but I'm in the Eastern time zone.
So I'm so glad you came.
All righty, let's not.
Me too.
Have a good night, Connie.
You too.
Bye.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's like, I wish we could help you, but I mean,
Well,
maybe somebody will see this and be able to help you. Who knows? I don't know who watches these.
well, I think we had a special service tonight for
Shabbat?
everything that's going on. Yeah. Our rabbi knows a lot of people in Russia and all over that
Oh,
area.
God, Russia.
I know, but I mean, I have a friend, Hadassah, which is the Hebrew name that means Esther, if you're familiar.
Yeah,
So,
I know about Esther.
So she runs an orphanage in Israel, and she is preparing to receive Jews from the Ukraine. So that is what a lot of my friends right now are focusing on is that
yeah, there's a whole
So-
bunch of Ukrainians in my neck of the woods.
really
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like I have a friend and her parents were born there. She was born here, but her parents were born there, so they have a lot of relatives. And when it first started, she said they were like 40 some odd miles away. And so I haven't gotten an update on how close it's getting to them, but I would imagine 40 miles isn't very long. So I imagine things are getting pretty crazy for them right now. It's craziness.
It is. I mean, I hope it ends before it gets any worse than it already is, to be very honest.
I don't believe it will, because I think it's okay for me to say this here. If not, you can fuss at me. But the Bible says the whole thing about wars and rumors of wars
It
and all of that.
does.
Well, we're sitting in that time. And I really think that this is going to be the beginning of a much bigger conflict.
We totally believe in
And
the same Bible.
and I shudder because, I do. I have a 17-year, almost 18-year-old son, and the idea that he might have to pick up a gun to defend our home
Yeah.
I mean, that's a very real possibility. I mean, it's staring us in the face, and that's kind of scary, to think that we might actually have to do that.
It's very
It's not an
scary, but
easy
it's a
thing.
reality, and it's very frightening.
It is, and one of my friends, her husband was already deployed, and the scary thing for military families like her and their kids, he could be on his way there, and they wouldn't know it, because these are things they can't talk about. So that's a very hard-hitting reality check to think that that's headed our way, man.
I mean,
And
nobody can ignore the reality of this. And I mean, this is why voices are so important everywhere. Like even on social media, I've seen videos of Russian protesters protesting what Putin is doing. And this is why it's so important for us in freer areas. I consider us being in freer areas because we are allowed to speak our minds about these
absolutely,
things.
yeah,
It's important for us to speak up about these things as we see them unfolding on the internet, because those in the lesser, like the less free areas, cannot speak.
absolutely. Well, I think right now this is a very good way for us to really help people. I mean, like you said, you've got people, Ukrainian people around you. No doubt they have friends and family there. This must be a really hard time for them. So right now, maybe they just need a friend to
Mhm.
talk to, or a shoulder,
I mean,
So I think we can, sitting here in Oklahoma, I can't do a whole lot, but
Mhm.
my friends that are worried about their family, I can be there for them as much as possible, and so I feel like that's my job. That's something I can do. I can't put on combat boots, but I can be there for them. And
like our minds, whether they be typical, whether they be divergent, we are privileged minds. We may not be able to do much with our bodies, but we are privileged minds. We are privileged voices. We have the right to speak. So we should speak.
Absolutely.
We should care. We should pray. We should do what we can. Blessed be our
Absolutely. And
minds and our voices.
if you look back in our history, the American people stood up to the president, and they got the voting age lowered. They got women the right to vote. They made real changes that have dramatically improved our lives today because of what they did then. My generation needs to stop sitting on our asses and start being willing to stand up against the president, the government, and say, hey, this isn't right. You need to help these people. The government. I mean, we send our people everywhere because we think that we're, the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that, America is going to go lay down the law in other countries. Well, now is one of the times when it's actually appropriate to do so. So I think we need to do that, and we need to say, hey, we demand that you do this, because It's worked. It's worked in the past. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
We can do this.
We can do a lot of things. We just have to have the human will to do it. We have to desire to do it.
No, we have to get our noses out of our phones, put the Starbucks cup down, and actually, like, you know, come together as a group.
I mean, we have to let indifference go, right?
Exactly. I mean, instead of, you know, like we've been talking about, focusing on the differences in us. Hey, you know, we all agree that this is bad. So we want to see something happen.
I mean, if we could just stop letting indifference and racism and hate and inequalities divide us. I mean, we could be one nation under God and help other nations who are weaker and struggling and getting attacked, and we could make the world better.
There was a point in our history when no one would dare go against the United States government because they did not want to deal with our military. And they knew what was going to happen. But that's a joke now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly why this is happening, because they consider this a joke. They think we're going to roll over. So, yeah, we really need to. I mean, it's crazy. I walked into a church not too long ago, and it was really funny because, not funny in a ha-ha sort of way, but there were these little groups, like people couldn't sit together if they weren't like in that little group. And so I started paying a little bit more attention. And you know, it's like, even going to the grocery store, you see these little clusters of people, and they're all the same. Like they'll all be black people, or they'll all be white people, or they'll all be, you know, whatever, but they're all similar. And I just feel like, you know, we really need to do better with this inclusion thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that I loved about Star Trek in the very beginning was the human race. Didn't matter if you were black, Asian, white. It just didn't matter. You were all humans.
Yeah.
And I really think that we need to get to that point where we're all humans. We're all just one race of people. And I'd love to see that. I mean, heck, the last Star Trek convention I went to was mostly the same, you know, your basic nerd, and most of them were white, but your basic nerd, you know, there's not a lot of moving outside of that. And that is one thing about the new Star Treks, which, although I'm not a fan,
Yeah.
it is bringing in a different group of people. So, you know, maybe we can learn from each other.
Like,
And
we're letting hate kill society. That's all there is to it. We're letting hate kill society, and we're weakening it. And there's other issues going on. We can't go and focus on those struggling. We can't go and help other parts of the world because we're letting hate kill society. Just like that Romulan infiltrated the Enterprise and the Federation, we're letting hate infiltrate our society and weaken it to the point where we can't be of help to each other.
Yep.
And it's like, we need to appreciate humanity. Like, you know, Picard wanted to teach Data when that baby boy was born, we need to appreciate the simple things in life, even as destruction happens. We need to focus on the joy of life instead of always focusing on sorrows and griefs and differences. We need to focus on the joys of each other and what we bring to life and what we bring to humanity, and our commonalities instead of our differences.
All right. Well,
Yeah, and as a concluding thought, yes, Anthony,
no, I was just gonna say, finish your thought.
I do have a nice little thought to round up the evening because I think we're getting tired, right?
Yeah.
If being
Yes,
human,
almost
if
11
being,
o'clock.
yeah, if being human is not simply a matter of being born flesh and blood, if it is instead a way of thinking, acting, and feeling, then I am hopeful that one day I will discover my own humanity. Until then, I will continue learning, changing, growing, and trying to become more than what I am.
I like
We're-
that.
Yeah, that's a good quote. And I mean, we're not there yet, but are we even trying?
I think there's a few people trying.
There's so few of us, though. There needs to
I know, but don't give up, because one person can make a big change. And if you look back through our history at the countless times that one person with an idea, one person with a thought, one person who was actively doing something really changed history. I think you should hold on to that, because I think there's hope for us yet.
That's the hope. I mean, here's a thought. If we could all focus more on our humanity and being better, how much better could we be as a collective?
Yes.
Hey, we still got you. Come on.
Oh,
You know?
everybody thinks I'm wonderful. Maybe I should start thinking of myself as wonderful, because I get,
That'll work.
Hey, you know what? I read this thing the other day, and it said that you should talk to yourself the way you talk to your dog or your cat. Because when you greet them, it's, hey, beautiful. When I greet the rabbit, we have pet rabbit, Major Kira and Reese Bun Bun. It's, hey, you pretty boiny rabbit. We don't criticize her. We don't tell her she's fat. We don't tell her she's ugly. We tell her how beautiful she is. We tell her, oh, you grumpy, you need a treat, right? So you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, hey, you're having a bad day. You need to go get yourself some ice cream and chocolate syrup, maybe a brownie. You know, treat yourself, give yourself a treat. Tell yourself you're beautiful, because you are.
thank you.
I'm working on that. We'll
Okay.
see.
Well,
All right, folks. Well, it's almost 11 o'clock my
it is
time.
almost, I don't want to keep you up late. So any concluding thoughts from everyone?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're
I'm
good?
good.
All right. So as we depart, let's work on discovering what it means to be human, and work on discovering our own humanity, and also work on continuing to learn, change, grow, and trying to become more than what we are.
Yes.
Love it.
Long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Hey, I'm
Thank
even
you
wearing
for
my Live
coming.
Long and Prosper shirt.